welcome them as they come to the stage. Now, we heard that Dave is not only the most handsome and strongest member of the Bitcoin community, but Jade Alberts clearly has the best shoes of the Bitcoin community. He did shame me yesterday, so as you can see, I'm not wearing boots like yesterday. I'm wearing something that's a little more in keeping with the style that the Canadian Blockchain Consortium is setting. But Jade, aside from being a snappy dresser, is also an entrepreneur, angel investor, and strategist that tells it like it is. He exited their company over 7 years ago and has helped 3 others exit theirs. Jade has founded Pure Guidance, Purpose Before Profit, which is a group of entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. They guide startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses through their challenges, focusing on growth, scaling, and angel investing. Jade believes that lack of capital and not knowing anyone should not get in the way of what you need to succeed. And for those that know him, networking and meeting people is something he loves to do. He's an angel investor with 30 investments in our ecosystem that helps startup TNT, which has invested approximately $7 million into 38 companies in the last 2 years. And of course, I think you're also a co-chair of the Canadian Blockchain Consortium as well. So please, let me just hand it over to Jade Alberts to talk about investing in disruption.
Well, I hate introductions. I don't like talking about myself. I like talking to people. But I just also want to get this out of the way that it's not hard to be the sexiest moderator when you're after Dave Bradley. So I've already told him that. So I'm good there. But as I say on Telling It Like It Is, less of me, more of our guests always makes for a better show. So we're going to quickly do an introduction here, and then we'll do a fun fact as usual. But the first one we're going to talk about is Bryan Slauko, the co-founder of Metiquity. He works with the privately held small, medium-sized businesses to help accelerate their growth by attracting early-stage risk capital. He also works with investors to mobilize their capital by delivering confidence in our investment expertise and fully vetted investment opportunities. His fun fact, where is your fun fact? You don't even have one on here.
I gave it to you.
Oh, what is it? You have to say it now.
Well, I don't know if it's that fun. Do you really don't have it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, many years ago, I went bungee jumping. So I jumped out of a cable car that was halfway up a mountain, and it stopped about 500 feet above the ground. And I ran out of the back, and I dove head first and free fall for a few seconds. And there was grass right below us. You know, there's no water, no streams, it's grass. But it was fun. It was a great rush. It was a good time. It was previous life.
That's a good one. Next is Zach Storms, the founder and chief organizer of Startup TNT. Zach's obviously one of 3 Americans on this panel. We don't hold that against him. He's by far has the best sideburns. That's not a fun fact. That's actual. But obviously Startup TNT, as Danielle said, has raised about $7 million. There are 39-ish companies here in Alberta. And Zach just, if I think I'm a good networker, he's next level. He just likes, slogan is having fun, making friends, building companies, and he can juggle and ride a unicycle at the same time. Probably learned that at McGill. That was part of your PhD.
I did it at a high school pep rally, actually. I don't know if they had pep rally. Back in America, we had those big pep rallies, get everybody round up, juggling and riding my unicycle at the same time.
Nice. And Zach's a scientist. He likes to tell people that. So. Next is Lindsay Smylie, the director of Plug and Play for Alberta. So she's a passionate natural connector with experience saddling multiple industries, including health, sustainability, ag, and the CPG. As director of Plug and Play, Lindsay is driven to connect the best startups to large corporations who can help bring technology to market faster. An entrepreneur at heart, she founded and operated one of the largest capacity craft distributors in Alberta. And this is a good fun fact, like it probably wasn't fun at the time. When she landed in Tanzania, days after 9/11, she was immediately put under protective house arrest for over 4 weeks. And that's probably where you learned to make beer.
Not fun at all.
I wouldn't think so.
But I'm not very fun following Zach, so I had to go serious.
And of course, Marcela Mandeville, CEO of Alberta Women's Entrepreneur. She grew up with a father from Salt River First Nation and a mother from Mexico City in a small francophone community. She learned to adapt quickly and live with a mixture of cultures and ideas where believed anything was possible. This belief led her to an international business degree with focus on marketing, designation as a certified international trade professional, MBA, plus 15 years of global experience in strategy, planning and marketing communications, and does great work with AWE. She has visited over 27 countries and plans to add to that list. So, fun fact, I'll just give mine. I swam the San Francisco Bay and Escape from Alcatraz, and I didn't get eaten, so I was pretty pumped about that. So anyways, each of you have, I'm going to start this off a little differently. Each of you obviously work with a lot of startups. This is something we always talk about startup is, know your shit, get it out there, right? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to explain why your unique experience has so much value adding to startups, growing companies in our ecosystem. Bryan, why don't you start?
Sure. So our fund now is a Alberta-focused pre-seed fund. So we're investing in founders when they're probably a couple years into business. They might not have any revenue yet, maybe a little bit of revenue, but there's a long path ahead of them still. And so we got on this path to doing this. I guess I've been in the investment industry in different capacities for 25 years, from really big investment bank down to going out on my own to do business for the first time 10, 12 years ago. And so lots of different experiences along the way, made lots of mistakes, learned some things. Advised dozens and dozens of different companies on investment-related things over the years. 5 years ago, we saw a great opportunity here in Alberta. We saw what we still believe is a massive pre-seed funding gap in the province, and we wanted to be part of solving that. So we believe we've got a lot of experience and insights from all the things we've done over the years. They're great things we can pass on to founders and help them avoid some mistakes, grow their businesses faster, pass along some wisdom in addition to the capital when we invest. Then that's what we're all about today.
Nice. That's a long elevator pitch, but good job. Zach?
Oh, God, pressure's on, Jade. All right. Listen, here's what's unique about me. To borrow a phrase from The Great Gatsby, I'm the least qualified of all professionals, the well-rounded man. I have a PhD in chemical engineering. I can relate to the scientists out there. I spent a lot of years, 10 years in academia trying to build companies, know exactly what that's like. I've done, I think, more angel investments than Jade Albert. I can relate to all the angels out there. And I spent 2 years failing to build my own company and really became an ideation, iteration specialist. I can relate to all the entrepreneurs out there in those very early days where your company's a failure and you don't even want to go to a cocktail party and tell people what you do because it's so embarrassing. And I run a not-for-profit that receives grants and is basically economic development agency. So I'm very good friends with all of our service providers out there, like Marcela, who I work with on a few initiatives. So I can relate to as many people as possible.
I guess we tease Zach that he's a wantrepreneur, but now that he has TNT, he's good to go. He's in our club now. Lindsay.
Oh, he's so hard to follow. I'm really a generalist in a lot of different things, but a master of nothing. So I think that gives me just a varied perspective that has served me well over my career. I went through a fairly traditional background in institutions and did a leadership training with Brene Brown. And out of that, might be interesting, is I stepped out into the arena and I was brave. It was all about being vulnerable, and that's when I started the distillery. So I left a somewhat cushy career path and started to make booze. And with that, all the failures, and I think something this crowd might appreciate is it was very early on in the regulatory environment, so there was a lot of changes and we were living them and helping to rewrite those regulations as we were literally operating our business. So I think that's very similar to what crypto and blockchain and what we're experiencing right now, and it's serving me really well in this plug and play role. So.
Nice. Fun fact, I had coffee with Brene Brown, but we can talk about that later. Marcela.
Yeah, so I think personally, and you mentioned it, it's that global perspective. So it's kind of feels like it just flows through my veins. And that piece of connecting, in particular, Alberta businesses and Alberta thought leadership with the rest of the world has been a passion of mine for many, many, many years. I won't say how many, I'm going to age myself. But, and then from an organization perspective, I think, I failed at a business. I didn't get the support I needed. I didn't ask for the help that I needed. And so learning about Alberta women entrepreneurs and other service providers and a whole community of support out there was really eye-opening. And like Zach, I'm a wantrepreneur. Maybe I'll dip my toe in it again in the future. But for now, I think the experience of understanding the different perspectives and really that diversity piece. So, trying to create as inclusive of an environment as possible for entrepreneurship to be successful is something that is extremely important. And I think that personally, I feel very passionate about it. And I think as an organization, AWE is well positioned to help make that happen.
Nice. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and that's something that we talk about, and we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. So let's talk about that asking for help. So we'll start with you, Marcela, but we have an incredible amount of knowledge, especially coming from other technologies, other industries in this province. We've always heard the brain drain. I haven't heard a lot of it over the last. We seem to be keeping a lot of it. I think the work's not a place. It's a thing you do, not a place you go. Has changed that. So, what do you think we have to do to keep more of our entrepreneurs here, our high-skilled people here in Alberta?
Well, I think we're on the right track with all of the connections. So I think part of the challenges over the last couple of years has been the lack of connection with each other. So this piece of connecting with each other, getting those collisions of ideas and of capital. So this is the area in particular. How do we get entrepreneurs to come here from other places, or if they're already here, to stay here? A lot of it has to do with money. And the resources that are available. So what actually makes sense to the entrepreneurs? And again, looking at the whole spectrum of entrepreneurs. So we have a lot of folks that have been on the fringes of entrepreneurships. How do we make sure that they're included? And what kind of policies are facilitating that at the government level? What kind of capital is flowing to support that? And how are we actually connecting Alberta to the global market and positioning us as the place to do business? We talk a lot, I'm just going to say one more thing. We talk about the women's entrepreneurship, and this is something to be really proud of in Alberta. We lead the country in early stage businesses owned and led by women, and Canada leads the world. So this is something that we should absolutely build on and be really proud of. And obviously there's still a lot of work to do, but that is extremely important. How do we attract more women to start and build businesses here?
I agree. We have a question about women entrepreneurship that we'll get to here, but that kind of leads. I'm going to go with Lindsay so she doesn't have to follow Zach all the time. But this is why we brought Plug and Play here. This is why Alberta Innovates. The government has been so supportive. So talk about how you're going to help us.
Well, I think to keep brain drain, we have to do what we're doing. So the government investing in bringing companies like Plug and Play to the ecosystem is a piece of that puzzle. And so I think we need to keep doing that, keep investing in the innovation ecosystem, but then also supporting our homegrown companies to be able to scale and commercialize and exist at that higher level here. So companies like Cement, Adibotics, Neo, we need to keep them here, and we need to support them as well, because those collective companies will continue to hire people, attract talent, and continue to foster our ecosystem. So I'd say those two things.
Nice. And one person we don't want to go back to America is Zach, so.
No, don't worry, I've been in Canada since, 2003. So, anyways, you know what, I have a couple of thoughts. One is the visibility of the startup community. You know, on my drive in here today, I saw Benevity, big sign on a building. You know, we need a lot of big signs like that. Be loud and proud about the tech community. I was listening to an interesting podcast, and I'd like to borrow his advice. He was talking about the history of ambition, and where do the most talented, highest performing people graduating from our universities in our society, where do they view as the job that they want? And his philosophy was like, we need to make entrepreneurship and the startup community as kind of like that pinnacle where all the most ambitious people want to be, and sort of create that experience for them. So, you know, I think that that's something we can all work towards. I'll leave it there.
We do have to start bragging a little bit, becoming a little more American. And Bryan and I, we've talked about this in the past, but I think we all have, right? Saying shouting from the mountaintops. And that's one of the reasons why I started telling it like it is. But Bryan, what are your thoughts?
I think for me, I'm very focused on the ground on mobilizing capital. And so, you know, we deal with founders all the time. It's 2 or 3 founder company. They're in their first couple of years. They got some great idea. They got customers that want it, but it's not quite built just yet. And they can't sell it just yet, or they need to keep building it out. So they need to raise some money to do that. The biggest problem we have is we don't have depth of investment experience in the technology ecosystem here in Alberta. And that's I think it's just a fact. It's just where we are in the life cycle development as an ecosystem. We're early, and any early ecosystem around the world has same challenges. There's not a lot of depth of investment expertise, and so keeping founders here, encouraging more founders to start companies and grow their companies, they need to know that there's access to capital when they need it. And I'm talking like not the stuff you read about in the newspaper headlines. I'm talking companies today, you know, need after they've had a little bit of friends and family money, maybe 50 grand, like they need a $300,000, $500,000 pre-seed round, and they'll be on their way. But it's the hardest money to raise in this province right now. To find a lead investor who can step up and fill that, it's really difficult. So how do we mobilize the capital, educate them a little bit, make them more familiar with what the venture capital asset class is really important. And so for me, that really just gets, I could talk forever, but the biggest thing is really continuing to professionalize the approach to investing in the asset class. Venture capital is an asset class that has a place, and it's not just the romance and the excitement about investing in tech, but it has an important place in a portfolio, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, absolutely. But you brought up a very good point, is first money in is the hardest to get, and that's why Startup DT and Metiquity and some of the other companies here, investment firms have done such a good job putting that first one, getting them to that next level. You can't get to 10 million without getting the first 50 grand. So, on that, I mean, everybody thinks that they're going to be $1 billion company, they're going to be a unicorn when they start. Most of them don't even come close. Some turn into lifestyles, which is great. 90% of our, ecosystem is made up of lifestyle companies. And I heard an interesting stat the other day that we have 3,000 startups in our ecosystem, and I think it was 65% of them are 1 to 5 employees. So what do you think the most important factors are to get these to the next level? I know we've talked about it, we need to get them there. How are we going to get them there? Lindsay, why don't you start?
This is a really good topic because not a lot of people probably know what Plug and Play does, but in Silicon Valley, we were rated as the top 9 pre-seed investors in North America for activity. So last year we made over 210 investments in that space, and our average check size is around 150K. So we're actually one of the first ones in. We have 39 unicorns in our portfolio. 15 of them were announced last year, and of those, we were the first check in on 9. So we kind of build those unicorns legitimately, and I can kind of back that. So I'm really excited about what we can do in Alberta and how we can start to grow those. Our CEO committed to actually growing 5 unicorns in Alberta in the next 5 years. So this is like a big task. And
Pressure's on, Lindsay, pressure's on.
I didn't say it. But fun fact, does anybody here know what a herd of unicorns is?
Not a clue.
It's a blessing, literally.
All right. Plug and Play is going to bless us.
Yeah. But I would also say that the whole status of unicorn is not as illustrious as it once was, because in 2013 there was 39 unicorns around the world, and now there's over 600, and we're seeing them grow faster and faster. So within 5 years now, some of the companies can actually reach that status. So I think the new goal is actually what's called like a decacorn and a hectacorn. So those are the new terms coming out of Silicon Valley you're going to want to listen to.
No doubt. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I actually think that the type of work that groups like Plug and Play do is super, super important. And that is, connecting our local companies to an international resource base of mentors and partners and supporters that can get them playing and interacting with the international startup community and thinking in terms of the way startups around the world are thinking. And I think that's a huge, huge factor in getting all of us to think a little bit bigger than just think about our local province or city. And so that's super, super important. So
I agree. And you know what? Katie, I hope he's having a good time at Disneyland, but we upgraded to Lindsay, better looking too, but we would have had 2 hats on the panel if he was here.
I just have more hair.
Yeah, a lot more hair. But I mean, as an example, when Plug and Play got here, and Kevin is Lindsay's colleague, he's like, Jade, I need introductions to this company, this company, this company. I think it was like 10, and all of a sudden he's introducing to their Plug and Play in Chicago and to New York and to the Valley, and it was priceless. And we do need that. So Plug and Play is going to be a very, very big help to our ecosystem. Let's go, Marcela. Your thoughts?
Now I'm so entranced by the conversation, I forgot the question.
Oh well.
Unicorns. Oh yes. Okay. blessing. And I was just thinking about blessings and decacorns, and so my mind wanders. So I think this piece too. So similar to, I mean, not similar, but the work we do around capital for startup or for women-owned businesses it's debt financing, and we lend up to $150,000. And again, it's that first stepping stone into other money. So on average, entrepreneurs who borrow from us will leverage that money at least 4 times. So they will take that and they will get investments, they will get other lenders to contribute, and we wish we could lend more, but we're capped with our funding agreement at 150, working on it. But that idea of being able to say, well, this, AWE believes in me, so you should believe in me too. And part of that too, it's not just the money, it's those connections as well. So, the fact that Plug and Play has, global connections is incredible. And the same, we've been focusing on it more from the supply chain side, for example, looking at supplier diversity and other ways that women can connect into other international opportunities. And that's huge. That global mindset and that global opportunity is something that should be a part of every plan that is being done. So I just think that it seems like a little piece of money when we're talking millions of dollars and what unicorns actually create in terms of wealth, but it takes those incremental small steps to get there, and somebody has to be that first believer and actually put money in.
And that's why guys like Bryan are here. Bryan, your thoughts?
I agree with what everyone said so far. Like the supports that are in Alberta for founders today are so much better than even 2 years ago. But my focus always goes back to the capital. And so, if you want to get on your way and you want to grow and have a large successful business, at some point you're going to have to go out and secure that first funding round, that first $500,000. And so the biggest mistakes that I see from founders when they're doing that, probably number one is, you need to really realize that it's a local market for that money. You got to stop the comparisons to Silicon Valley and New York and Boston and other markets, and understand that it's a supply and demand issue here locally in Alberta, and that's what's going to drive valuation and drive the desire for certain deal structures. So we got to do our homework, understand where we are and the kind of investors we're talking to, and learn how to speak their language. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get capitalized, and then you're not going to get on your way. And once you get the money, I think having a very specific and clear go-to-market strategy that you can execute on and commercialize is probably the most important thing. Do one thing for those first 18 months after you raise that first round, own it, kill it, do it really well, and ignore all the other shiny objects until we own one thing and do it really well, then other opportunities will come. So I think we got to be smart about understanding the local market where you're pulling the capital from, and then just being very focused on executing to put it to work.
Very important, right? Because it's also hard to raise your next round. It's never, the money's always going to be on as a thing that we're looking to raise. It's always hard to get, and your next people want to know what you did with the money you got. So that's always making sure, like Bryan said, don't chase those shiny objects. But I want to kind of switch it now, because I want us to boast about some of our companies that we've seen. We've seen hundreds of companies come over the last year or so, even a couple hundred over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've seen a lot of great successes. And again, we have to start shouting from the mountaintops. We have to start, not waiting till they get to the Smeds, the Benevities, and the Jobbers of the world. They've been great for a long time. So I'm going to kick it off and say this is a company that I just absolutely love. They're knocking it out of the park. They're going for their third raise. ZS2 Technologies are going to be building a manufacturing plant here. They are going to be hiring a whole bunch of employees here. They have been hiring Scott Jenkins and Doug Brown. They're doing fantastic things. So this is my first one to kick it off with ZS2. And Bryan, who do you think is a really good success story right now?
I'm going to be a little bit more general, just because the companies that we focus on they're really early. So I don't have those traditional metrics to share with you. But just from all the companies that we've seen, like there's a handful that stand out to me in the last 6 months that. I've met them a few times, maybe 12 months ago, 18 months ago. They didn't exist, or they were just an idea. Fast forward 12 months, and they've got $10,000 to $40,000 a month in recurring revenue. And the business is just wonderfully simple. They found a burning problem that their customers are relating to the solution that they're providing. They've got a solution that's easy for the the customer to want to buy, and the resistance is really low, and you can grow really quickly. And they've not raised a lot of money. Like some of them have raised maybe $100,000, maybe $200,000 to get to those points, right? And it's just wonderfully simple to see some businesses that they're nailing the right things and they're on the right track, and that gets me excited because it's leading to more of those pre-seed funding rounds, and that's just going to help keep things moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And the more exits we have, the more, everybody moves up the food chain, so to say. The $5,000 checks become 25, 25 become 100, 250 become $1 million. So I'm going to save Zach for last because he's going to probably have a few examples knowing him. So Marcela, well, how about yourself?
Oh, it's hard to pick just one or two. I'm kind of wanting to share that experience, but I think just speaking in terms of like our money, for example. So normally we lend, between 1.3 and 1.5 million dollars in a year. This past year we ran out of money in October, and the majority of our lending last year was to startups, and of course women, and the majority were STEM related. So that is a huge swing, and so I think the same idea where having that investment, having that confidence, and then being able to execute really, really well with good plans and good supports. And it's not just, they're not just AWE clients. They often work with a number of organizations and individuals to get the mentorship, coaching, support, money that they need. And I think being able to ask for help and look at all of these different resources and be able to pathfind, what works for them is helping to make them successful. But this really rapid incremental growth it's a really good sign. And so we want to put more money in, we want to get more of these entrepreneurs started, and we want to be able to get them, past that first growth hurdle.
No, absolutely. And I'm excited about the next question because it's gonna crush it. Lindsay, your thoughts?
This is way too big of a question for me. We're only in Alberta for 3 months. We have 39 startups going through our program right now. So I would say I'm excited to see what comes out of it. We've already invested in one, Scientra, which is a breast screening company. So I think that one's really exciting to me. I already listed off a few of those bigger ones in Mandeville and Adibotics, and those companies that have already done really well are successes. But I kind of want to take a different approach. Like, I think in Alberta, what to me has been a sign of success is our two biggest industries are transitioning. So we're going through major transitions and digitization of agriculture, of energy, and that's a big feat. And out of that, we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs that are coming and trying to service those changes. We're seeing career changes and upskilling. We're seeing a lot of the movement in that space, and we're catching attention globally. Like, Alberta is being talked about as far as artificial intelligence, machine learning, what's happening here in the digital space, the clean renewables. There's so much to shout out from the rooftops. Like, I don't even know where to start, but I'm really excited that everybody I talk to in Munich and Stuttgart, they're talking about Alberta. Like, we're on the map. That's exciting.
Oh, and every year you're just seeing our investments go up and up and up, and I'm sure Zach has the stats. I can't remember them, or maybe Bryan has them. But all right, Zach, your turn.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, you know me too well. I was like, how are you going to limit me to one company, Jade? I want to go back to the first 3 companies that raised money at our inaugural investment summit. That was just in Edmonton. 3 really awesome companies. It's been 2 years now. The company that won was Drug Bank. And, when you're talking about helping build a name for Alberta internationally, like, this is a company that has one of the most cited resources in academia in the world. They get something like 10 citations a day from academics because they collect and curate basically all of the world's knowledge base on drugs. They also have, I think, 10 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies as clients, and they just raised a $9 million massive round. So props to Drug Bank. I think they've doubled in size to close to 50 people. How about Future Fields? There's a company in cellular agriculture. That's one that really kind of, to me, speaks to this mindset of, like, I'm not an Edmonton company, I'm a global startup company. And I work in this really niche space called cellular agriculture. And when they started 2.5, 3 years ago, there was only like 40 or 50 companies in that space. And they knew them all. And now a bunch of those companies are their customers. And they've gone from like 3 employees to like over 20. And I know that they're working on their next round of funding, and so stay tuned on that story. And then finally, 2S Water. one that I think is actually in plug and play, right? There's a great company. These are also, you know what I love about these companies? They're also like deep tech spin-off companies from the U of A, or at least building their technologies in partnership with them. And, you know, that's a company that I think, you know, ran into a little bit of hurdles with the pandemic, but now they're on the ground running. They've got their water technology product in mining companies. They got global customers in mining. Plug and play, I'm sure, is going to help them out. And I know that they're actually just in the process of closing another round of funding. So 3 great success stories from our very first summit.
Absolutely, and what we're also seeing is a lot of, he's like a boss from Future Fields. He's now an angel investor. You'll see Adrian up here, who raised funding with Cherry Health. He's now an angel investor. So these people are now becoming, you know, raising their funds and investing back into it. So as we grow, we're going to crush it. But the one place we are crushing it, and it's no comparison than anywhere else in the world, is with women entrepreneurship. We are at Startup TNT. We're about 35% invested into female-funded or co-founded companies. As Alberta, we're approximately 30-ish%, somewhere around there, and the world's like 15 to 17%. So, I mean, obviously there's only one person to start with this question. So why do we have such unbelievable female entrepreneurs in this province? Like, it is just unbelievable.
Because women are awesome in this province, because we have amazing people. This is an entrepreneurial place. And, you know, I've left Alberta a few times and lived in different parts of the world, and I always come back. And that's a big reason why. And I think that cultural piece of embracing entrepreneurship, of being risk-taking, it makes it a great environment. And with women, I mean, AWE has been around for 27 years now. We'll be celebrating 27 years in May. So it's been a long time working to make it happen. And there's been lots of folks along the way that have been part of it. But I think this piece of actually, we're a significant part of the population. You know, we're 51% of the population. So rightfully, we should be taking our place in business leadership and entrepreneurship, the economy. And so I think this is I hope going to be exponentially growing, because it has been growing far too slowly for far too long. So this is a really good sign. And I hope that by, you know, shouting this from the rooftop and by continuing to support women who are starting and building innovative, incredible businesses that are solving not only local problems, but global problems that are a big deal, that piece will attract others. So how amazing would it be to actually be the best place in the world for a woman to start and grow a business? And I hope that that's the reputation that we're building.
Oh, we definitely are. There is no doubt there. Bryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So our fund's relatively new. We haven't been around a long time, so we only have 6 companies in our portfolio today, but 50% of those, 3 of the companies have 1 female founder, and 2 of those 3 have 2 female co-founders. So, you know, I think it's great. I mean, diversity in all respects makes for a stronger company, stronger team, stronger investment potential. And you know, I don't think we can go wrong in encouraging and continuing to invest in diversity in every sense of the word.
I agree. So you're bringing up that average at 50%. I love it. Zach?
Yeah, actually, one of those deals we're both invested in together. Great company, Aerolytics. I might think about this question like on a personal level, which, you know, that stat that you mentioned, like roughly a third of our deals or more at Startup TNT have a women founder, or at least a co-founder as part of a founding team. You know, I might think to us as the investors, or maybe especially leaders in the startup community, you know, what can we do to like improve our own or address our own biases and better relate to different types of people out there that have a lot of potential? It's easy for us to fall into a trap of like getting to know someone that looks and talks similar to us or has a similar background to us. But the more comfortable we are building trust with people that are a little bit different from us, whether that's just because they're a woman and you're a man, or it's because you're from very different walks of life. We have a lot of immigrants in our community as well. The faster you can build that relationship with them, the better off we all are. And so I might just put a little challenge out to all of us, especially those of us that might look more like me. You know, what can we do to make a credible introduction, bring someone new into the community, you know, help someone get taken more seriously than maybe they might have been without that warm introduction?
There's only one Zach Storms, right? You should be a wrestler, like literally a wrestler. So this is our last kind of question, but I want to, Lindsay, what does Plug and Play have? Do you have any aspirations here for Alberta, with the female founders?
Well, I am a female founder, but it's funny because I just want to say a different perspective as one going through this ecosystem. I never really thought about it. I didn't think about myself as a female, and I didn't want other people to look at me as a female. I was like, I'm legitimately doing something awesome, and you're either bought in or you're not, regardless of who I am and what I look like. So I kind of have that perspective with me going forward, and I hope that we can attract more people to have the confidence and deliver kick-ass things that are fundable, that deliver, and regardless of who we are, where we come from. So I think from Plug and Play's perspective, one of the things we're looking at is how do we provide program and access to beyond the rural the rural areas of Alberta, the Indigenous communities. How do we engage them? How do we include them in what we're doing so it's broader than Calgary and Edmonton and even into Lethbridge? So for us, it's a little bit of a location thing. Our president just happens to be really, really supportive. She started a Found Her program globally, so it's all about finding female entrepreneurs and then providing supports and services specifically for them. So I'd imagine we are looking at reimagining what that looks like here and how we can plug and play into that. So.
I just love what you said. I mean, when we look at investments, and I've been sitting, especially with Zach and Bryan here, it doesn't matter. It's a company. It doesn't matter who's leading it. It's irrelevant. If it's a good company, away we go. And I think that's probably, there is no bias here. It's just, it is what we want to do. And I'm going to have one little question here, so I'm going to let Dave and Chris sit there for a bit. But telling it like it is, I always have, my last question is, and it has been for 200 and some episodes. If you had one piece of advice for an entrepreneur startup, what would it be? And you've got 15 seconds. Zach.
Sure. Well, you know what? I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I'm going to give the same advice to you that I give to myself every single morning. It's on my t-shirt when I wake up, and this is not just advice for an entrepreneur, it's a life advice, how you should be living your life. Have fun, make friends, build companies, in that order.
I thought you were going to say get up.
Lindsay?
Hustle, deliver, and be curious.
Nice. Marcela?
Ask for help.
Love it. Bryan?
I'd say focus, execute, and surround yourself with people that are going through similar things as you, and ask for help along the way through that process for sure.
You can't, and I do a lot of work in mental wellness and speak about it, and we've had our own issues within our family during COVID, and I always make myself available to people and have random meetings and Madam Coffees, and that is one thing that it can be a very, very lonely journey as an entrepreneur, so that the one thing that comes out of here we always stress. So I guess that kind of wraps up our panel discussion until we'll get some questions going here. So if anybody has any questions, put up your hand right there. Boom, blue box.
Hi, thanks for the panel. My name's Lynn, and I'm with the National Research Council IRAP program. So we're kind of like an earliest stage, highest risk investor in technology-based businesses. So I have two questions. The first one's really simple, operational one. And then there's a second one, which is actually a future visioning one. So the operational one is, there's a lot of programs now. I've been in Calgary for 40 years in this system, like encouraging the technology sector. Now there's a lot of programs. So how do you suggest that entrepreneurs get into the system, or find your programs, find my programs, what do you suggest? So really quickly. And then my second question, I'll ask at the same time. What sectors, what tech sectors? So a lot of the recent successes are in fintech, HR tech, the companies that you're mentioning, and VCs are those areas covered already? Or where's the future? Where are you going to be investing in the future is kind of the future-looking question.
Okay, who wants to tackle the first one of programs?
Well, I have some quick piece of advice, which is I really think, I'm a big believer in peer-to-peer feedback. So I actually think other entrepreneurs that are maybe 6 months to 24 months ahead of you on the journey are sometimes the best resource to give you, unfiltered real advice on which programs work well, where to get the good resources. They just went through that problem. They can help you get through it. And so going to various meetup groups with people where you can meet other entrepreneurs like that and getting like real candid feedback from them is my piece of advice for entrepreneurs new to the system.
Absolutely, and I think that's a very good thing. And there's great. Once you go, we have people like Denise Barrel here, the Grand Sherpa. She can, help you, guide you, whether it's IRAP and getting you into certain things. Also, there's, whether it be Startup TNT or Founders Coffee or, finding platform, we've got so many great people that will guide you in the right direction. And your second question, Brian, why don't you take that one?
May just really quickly on the first one, I would say like every program's not for everybody, right? So like Zach said, talk to people that have been through them, and depending on where you are, it might make sense for you, it might not. So some people don't get that insight beforehand and might feel like they wasted some time. So it's important to do some homework. Second question, where are we focused on investing? Again, our focus is here in Alberta, and so that keeps us very generalist and diversified in the things that we're looking at. And so highly scalable, capital efficient businesses, that often means like business to business SaaS, software as a service type of investments, but we're pretty open, and we're investing in software, we're investing in hardware, we're really not afraid of too much. There's a few things that we won't do just as part of our thesis, but I think there's a lot happening in the province, and there's a lot of opportunities across different sectors, and a lot of that ties back to some of the core things that Alberta's really strong in. But with the digitization and digital transformation, I mean, it's changing everything, right? So there's a lot of opportunity.
And we are very collaborative. We are an unbelievably collaborative ecosystem where we work with AWE and TNT, and we're investing with each other. We're referring deals to each other. We're saying, you know what, I can't help you, but Platform Cam. I can't help you, but here's Plug and Play. So that is something that we do very, very well. And I speak to this on a lot of panels across the world. It's just, we're different. It's cutthroat in Toronto. It's cutthroat in the Valley. It's not cutthroat here. We really, really work together.
Absolutely, because it's a young ecosystem. We can be very collaborative with each other, right? And that's what's great with the stage that we're at. I think as the ecosystem grows, we're going to find that I might sit here 2 years from now in a different fund and say that we've narrowed our focus a little bit, because as the ecosystem grows and develops, we're probably going to develop in the province some specializations and things that we're really good at, and have investors that have lots of expertise at investing in certain things, and that might focus narrow that focus a little bit over the next 3 to 5 years, probably. But I think today it's just keep it simple when you're out raising money, and tell a good story and make it easy for investors like any of us to understand what you're doing. I think that's the biggest challenge that I see, is that investment readiness means a whole lot more than just a pitch deck in a data room. We got to understand what the languages investors want to speak and what they need to hear, and how to be prepared and do your homework to make a winning first impression the first time you meet somebody. And we need to help founders do a better job in that sense, and I think it's an area where we can, as founders, hold ourselves accountable for some of the challenges in fundraising, whether it be through a grant program or equity or convertible note or whatever it might be. We got to look in the mirror sometimes and make sure we're keeping things simple enough for people to understand.
Well, you really have to keep it simple for us. Lindsay?
I think these are two really good questions. The first one, everybody's trying to solve. Everybody seems to be offering a concierge service, or trying to solve the problem for entrepreneurs, trying to create a navigation system, trying to map out what it is that exists. And I don't think you can do it. I think what's happening and what needs to happen is the entities that are acting in that manner continue to work together to talk to each other, so they are aware of what the programs are, because you are the conduits to the startups. And people like Jade and Zach at TNT, when entrepreneurs get connected into those people, and there's multiples of them, hopefully those are the ones that are educated and know what our system looks like and can help navigate. I don't think we're going to have a one-size-fits-all solution to it. And then it goes back to my advice for startups, which is hustle. You got to be at the Thursday, you got to be at the breakfast things. You got to figure out who those conduits are, and you have to do your work. Our government agencies and organizations are there to support the entrepreneurs, but not do it for them. And the ones that are going to be successful and make our economy successful are those ones that are going to figure it out for themselves, and they're going to actually succeed. So we just need to know what we're offering and then be able to connect when they do connect
Yeah.
with us.
Marcela, anything to add?
I don't think so. I think they've covered it all. I mean, this was, but I do think that piece of that, personal accountability and those of us in the ecosystem doing our best to stay connected and to actually stay collaborative, no matter where we are in the growth stage of our ecosystem. So I hope that we keep the same spirit that we have right now, and all of us are looking out for the best interests of the entrepreneurs out there.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions?
I do. Hi, this is Lee Mallow. Hi, Jade. Those shoes are sizzling. Love the discussion today. Thank you very much. I came out of the Vancouver ecosystem 10 years ago, and I came to Alberta because I love the entrepreneurial nature here. And so I really love hearing this conversation, and you partly answered my question about the collaboration piece. And so part of it for me is after seeing the transition over the last 10 years, and just want to reinforce that Alberta has not only established a tech sector and an ecosystem almost overnight, it has leapfrogged ahead of so many other tech ecosystems, and very legitimately so. And it's so exciting to me that I've left a lucrative economic consulting practice, and I decided to start my own companies as well, so I'm very excited to join that as well. So I'll be asking you for help, but my question is really based on that whole collaborative approach. Even 5 years ago, it was always Calgary versus Edmonton. It's like those old days of that kind of approach to it, I'm so glad to see are dead and gone. But I'm also seeing, based on all of my networks across Western Canada, a lot more collaboration between British Columbia and Alberta. Inventures is coming up, and we've got tech companies from BC coming in to pitch, in Alberta, and we've got companies and agencies in Alberta investing in tech companies, cross-border now, and it's becoming much more seamless. I'd love to hear more from you about what you're seeing in that level of sort of Western Canadian collaboration, maybe even Pacific Northwest, and where you see that going in terms of building strength across Western Canada.
Well, we got Unite the Prairies here in a couple weeks, right? So, you know what, Marcela, why don't you start?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about from our experience. So right from the beginning, we've been part of something called the Women's Enterprise Initiative, which is BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So there's 4 organizations like AWE across those provinces. We are a little bit different in what we offer based on the people in our province, but we have worked collaboratively for a number of years, and even just working to share resources in terms of investors and programming and providing some pathfinding for entrepreneurs that are looking for opportunities in those other provinces. So that's been hugely helpful, and we have a really solid way of doing that. And now we've actually created not now actually, but over a few years, created the Women's Enterprise Organizations of Canada. So organizations like AWE across the country are now collaborating, and we're saying, how can we do things bigger and better? How can we learn from what's going well in provinces to be able to share that across the country for the benefit of entrepreneurs? So that's huge. And this idea of collaboration across regions and across the country is absolutely necessary for Canada to step up our game in terms of actually being the economic force we should be based on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, Lindsay? Lindsay?
We are growing fast, so we're already in 52 locations. I think Alberta was the 40th plug-and-play office that set up in 3 months ago, and now there's 52. So you can expect that we'll probably have more locations across Canada in a short period of time, but we are setting up Alberta as the main Canada force, and we're starting to be known for that. So we're a little bit different. We're driven by our corporate partners who tell us what their tech interests and their challenges are, and we source startups for them. So for us, it's less about like collaborating, and it's more about connecting the large corporations, and they go across Canada. You don't have geographical boundaries around them.
No. Zach?
Yeah, this question makes me think about a great book, which I'll refer everyone to, called The Startup Community Way. It's about, how do you build a vibrant startup ecosystem? And, one of the take-home messages from that book is it really depends on the interactions of the members of the community. So if that's within a small community like one neighborhood or city, or if that's in a broader community like across all of Western Canada. So what can we do to catalyze higher quality interactions among the members? And so I can tell you at Startup TNT, we're really big on collaboration. The philosophy of having fun and making friends we take very seriously. And just to give one small example, sometimes people are hesitant, I think, in the past to not collaborate because they're worried about how this will negatively impact them and their metrics and what they're trying to do. But usually in this situation, we're all trying to work together for a common goal of supporting companies in a positive way. And pretty much every company is going to need supports from a few different organizations and people. It's never going to be like one organization that, made or break the company. So we did a investment summit in Saskatchewan last year. And half the money that was raised by the companies in Saskatchewan was from Alberta investors. And that's a big win for the province of Saskatchewan. The people in Saskatchewan realize this, wow, by partnering across the provinces, we're seeing more cross-investment into our deals. And there's some really great deals that came out of Saskatchewan. So that's just kind of a small example of the benefits of collaboration.
Yeah, Bryan?
For us as investors, we have to collaborate. From an investment perspective, when we're going into a company in a funding round, we have to collaborate. We need to work with other investors. They might be in Saskatchewan or Calgary versus Edmonton or in British Columbia. Because where we are in the stage of the ecosystem development, again, if you're going out to raise $500,000 or $750,000, there's not a long lineup of investors all competing for that same money, right? There just isn't. And so we need to collaborate and help each other get comfortable and share due diligence and share thoughts and insights so that we can help bring more capital to the table, help it all come quicker and faster, and get companies moving. So that demands collaboration for sure. And then once the money's in, then, absolutely, we're still collaborating, whether it's maybe an investor in our fund who's in Edmonton who's got expertise with something that company one needs to hear from. Well, let's put them together and make sure that they share some thoughts and learnings, or whether that's connecting them to a future investor who maybe is another a later stage investor than we are, but they're based in BC and looking in Western Canada for opportunities. We got to know who those people are so we can make the connections and help the capital continue to flow faster and easier.
And I want to use a TNT example. We've had 5 companies get fully funded from when they entered our summit to go through it. 4 of them were from out of province, and we'll call it Ontario. And the only one to let us in was a local company here, Thin Air Labs. James said, yeah, whatever you guys want, Startup TNT, you guys are in, we're taking it, we oversubscribed the round, whatever it be. So we got to see more of that. But we have time for one more question. Sure. Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, panel. Talking to founders, I continue to hear that the investor sentiment in Alberta is significantly different than south of the border. It's more conservative, it takes more time, there's more due diligence, and then founders are spending a significant amount of time raising capital when they should be running their business. First, do you agree with that? And if so, how do we fix that problem?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's what I said earlier. We're early in our ecosystem. We don't have a lot of depth of experience in technology investment, right? So it's just a simple fact, and I think a growing pain. So it's something we do as we're raising money in our fund. We're educating investors. We're helping them understand how to invest in this space. But how do we really accelerate that investor education process? I think one of the best things we can do is encourage. There's a lot of money here. It's sitting on the sidelines. How do we get it off the sidelines? Realize that there's people with expertise that manage funds. Get some money allocated into some investment funds. Learn beside them as an investor and invest beside them and get some opportunities. But you need to utilize the expertise that's out there, and I think we have to get the capital moving into funds. It'll find its way faster into companies because we'll have that focused full-time investment expertise that's doing the investing. So there's a bit of a transition, I think, from people trying to figure out, how do I invest in this space? Can I do it myself? Should I do it myself, or should I invest in a fund? And then how do I execute if I want to invest in a fund? How do I find one? And what's a strategy do I invest in? If I was an angel investor, should I invest in 10 companies and put a lot of money in 10, or should I invest 100 and put a little? Those are the questions I hear people asking. There's a lot that people don't understand about seed capital, venture capital, and we gotta fill those gaps.
Yeah. Zach?
Yeah, hey, listen, the problem that you're describing is almost entirely the reason for our existence at Startup TNT. You know, we started 3 years ago purely as a happy hour, and a lot of entrepreneurs complaining, and this is common in small ecosystems, that, you know, the local investors are too much trouble for too little money. And, you know, we're big believers in, like, everything Bryan's been talking about. How do we get more of the wealth, you know, comfortable and sophisticated and confident in doing angel deals and understanding what you would think about when you're doing a pre-seed deal where the company's still pre-revenue. And, you know, we try to take an approach at TNT to address some of those things. So we actually have people like Bryan come in and give education sessions to all of our investors. So when the investors go through, they actually get 8 weeks of education from sophisticated investors. You know, we usually get venture capitalists come in and give those sessions. We time gate our process. So if you're an entrepreneur applying to Startup TNT, it's an 8-week process, which, you know, maybe in places like if you graduate from Y Combinator, maybe that's a long time, because maybe those deals, they close in like 2 or 3 weeks. But 8 weeks is actually pretty fast to get a decision. And I can give an example where Bryan and I collaborated, well, I should say Metiquity and TNT collaborated, and we actually did close the deal more or less in about 2 months. So I agree with you, there's a lot of room for us to improve, but I think it also is improving. And it's kind of on all of us. You know, maybe I'll just maybe put this back to the entrepreneurs. Like, you can help us ensure that life is better for you by actively trying to educate local investors, raising money from local investors, getting more local investors as part of your success story. And then I'll leave it there.
Yes, is it on? I got cut off. It's
You're cut off. You're done.
It's still off.
Oh.
Marcela?
Yes, it's faster in Silicon Valley. But we co-invest with 1,000 VCs, and we are bringing them here. We're bringing that money and those.
Zach, can you give her your
Testing.
yours? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question, but yeah, it is faster. I'm blown away how fast deals happen south of the border. But Plug and Play does and co-invest with over 1,000 VCs, family offices, and angel investors, and we are bringing our network and the awareness into Alberta. They will be here on May 31st in our expo, so we're giving that exposure. We're creating our own network within the Canadian environment, so trying to actually bridge them into the Silicon Valley thing. We will have a lot of programming around investors because that is a major part of what we do. So.
Beautiful.
Marcela?
Yeah, so we're not in the equity investment space, but in terms of, for us too, we're trying to turn around our debt financing faster to be able to leverage it into these opportunities. So I think the piece about, you know, the entrepreneurs, like being prepared and actually knowing who you're talking to and what you're asking for is really important. It can really help speed up the process. And I think we have more work to do as a community, as a, you know, investment, debt financing, capital provision community to start to look at what we can learn and how we can grow. And so I think it's great to have organizations like Startup TNT that's helping to do some of that education and help bring people in at, you know, more comfortable, smaller investment levels to start building that knowledge and that awareness of the opportunity. So I would hope that that at some point everybody can invest a little bit in these companies and help to make Alberta entrepreneurship grow even more.
Just real quick, I'd throw some accountability back to founders as well, because in an early ecosystem with inexperienced investors, we also have a lot of inexperienced first-time founders, right? And so, again, got to have your story down, you got to be investment ready. Many founders go out to seek money, they're not ready. They might think that they're ready, but I guarantee you they're not ready, and that's a whole other long conversation, but there has to be some accountability, and some of those supports need to go to helping investors purely be ready to talk to investors. For the founders.
And we are early, and that's something that we want to stress, but we're also a little different thinking up here. This is my money, right? And I'm not just going to go hand, you know, somebody, you know, my money and say, here it is. I want to make sure that I'm handing my money to somebody. If it's, I've worked hard to earn my money, I want to make sure that it's going to be invested properly. So the due diligence and things like that, right? It's a Canadian way. We're going to hand you a check for $100,000, $200,000 and say sorry.
All right. Well, we are 5 minutes late, so I failed in my one duty today, but we did make up 5 minutes. Please thank Jade Alberts, Bryan Slauko, Zach Storms, Linda Smylie, and Marcela.